welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news show. In today's show, we'll be discussing reports coming out that Manchester United have agreed to axe over half of the squad. They are willing to put them up for sale. Who is safe? Because not many players are safe. Amorim has also agreed to this, apparently, and is ready to be brutal. A minority of players, and I want to say it is the minority, the majority have been really good and taken to Amorim's way, but a minority of players are complaining about Amorim's rotation policy and do not like it, according to reports. Diego Leon to Manchester United is expected to be done today. We covered all of that in my live show earlier. We're going to talk about the squad ahead of tomorrow's match, Toby Collier, couple other players back, and then a few other just random stories about Manchester United and things that have been going on in and around the club. So, hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. Welcome back to your daily Manchester United live stream, and we're going to get right into the news, the reports, where it's come through. Do I believe the reports? Do I not believe the reports? Blah, 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 blah. Let's get into it. Internally, Manchester United agree that over half of the players in the squad are serious candidates to be sold in January or the summer if a good offer arrives. Ruben Amorim will be given the opportunity to make a rebuild, which will require urgent sales. Manchester United agree that over half of the players in the squad are serious candidates to be sold in 2025. If INEOS are going to be ruthless with the staff, they better be this ruthless with the players, because if Amorim wants to rebuild, we're going to need money to be invested, and if we don't have a lot of money to be invested, we need to sell. The problem is this. Manchester United, when we give out such ridiculous wages to such average players and reward mediocrity for 18 years due to mismanagement of the Glazer family, means that it isn't going to be easy for INEOS to sell these players. You know, players like Casemiro on 350 grand a week at age 32, that's on the decline, yet no one's going to match those wages. It's not going to be easy to sell. John Murta, who decided to give Anthony, who was on 20 grand a week at Ajax, a nearly 200 grand a week contract at Manchester United and spend 85 million on him, it's going to be difficult to sell Anthony because no one's going to pay his wages. Christian Eriksen will leave on a free anyway, but again, he's on over £150,000 a week. They are the three priorities for United to sell in summer because, one, the money saved on the wage bill, and two, they're looking to see if they can get any money for Eriksen so they don't lose him for free, any money for Anthony, any money for Casemiro. We know that they are three of the names, but it's going to be difficult because, one, who's going to want to buy Anthony? We might have to do loan. Who's going to pay his wages? Who's going to pay Eriksen's wages? Who's going to pay Casemiro's wages? So there's one thing saying we do want to sell half the squad. I believe that we want to sell more than half the squad, but it's not. It's easier said than done. And we get frustrated as United fans. Every summer they say they're going to sell half the squad and they can't sell half the squad and they let this player go for so cheap. But other clubs sell this player for this and this player for that. Now, the way it is it's when you've had people mismanage this club for 18 years that have given out those kind of wages and rewarded mediocrity, we either have to sell players for cheap because to compromise for their wages, or we don't sell them at all. That is the problem. That is the problem. So for me, you know, Man United have agreed to sell half the players, axe half the players, let Amorim get on with his rebuild. United have agreed to that. But will they be able to sell them? Will they be able to sell them for the right price is another question. You know, just wish we could sell the Glazers, said Mike. Absolutely agree with you, Mike. I wish we could sell the Glazers as well. I wish they would just F off. But the thing is, we've got to be ruthless. We want them sold. And it's just selling the players that were brought in before the INEOS regime is going to be difficult. You know, if we wanted to sell Joshua Zirkzee in the summer, because let's say he doesn't prove his worth between now and the end of the season, personally, I don't think you can judge a signing until they're in their second season fully. I think it's too early. I think there could be a player that I watched him at Bologna. I think people are being a bit harsh on Zirkzee. We've seen him have a few good games. He's not been utilised properly. He's been brought into a bad environment. But let's say INEOS decide in the summer, Zirkzee doesn't suit Amorim Ball, they're going to sell him. Because Zirkzee's only on 50 grand a week, which I say only, is still a lot of money, and he did well at Bologna, and he's a very unique profile of player that's actually quite wanted in the modern game, I think that they'd be able to recoup 25 to 30 million for Zirkzee and do an all right job there. I generally do. But Anthony, I don't think we're going to be able to recruit 25 million for him because you've also got to look at the wages. It's you know, the players that have come in before the INEOS regime are going to be difficult to sell. And, you know, United will look to get them out and stuff. I've seen 3 people say get rid of Dalot. I'm going to be honest, Dalot has been poor in these 3-4 games under Amorim. But a year ago, Dalot was our best player. Last season, Dalot was our player of the season. He was our best player of the season. He was our most consistent player. Dalot was one of the only players in Man United that gives 100%, that can actually run and cover ground, and is technically good, versatile, and stays fit. Do I think, if I was to just talk about the 5 signings I'd want in the summer and my best Man United 11, would Dalot be in it? No. But do I look at players at Man United that need to go as a priority, and would I include Dalot in that? Absolutely not. I think people are turning on Dalot. Dalot has been played out of position because Luke Shaw and Malacia can't stay fit. He's not going to be a left wing back in Amorim's system long term. He's going to be right wing back and right centre back. Dalot was just playing left wing back because of the injuries. And, I feel like because Dalot's had a couple bad games this season, everybody's turning on him. Everybody's like, get Dalot out, get Dalot out. If Real Madrid put in a 50 million offer, I'm not going to say no to that, am I? But, for me, it's very reactionary. He's had a few bad games, but he's not even been tried in his preferred position in our system. We know that Dalot's one of the only players that can stay fit, give 100%, is technically good and athletically good, and he might just become a squad player at United. He might not get into our best 11. But if you look at Liverpool, look at Joe Gomez. Is Joe Gomez a player that you think would start for Man United week in, week out? No. But is Joe Gomez a good player? Yes. Can he fill in at right back? Can he fill in at left back? Can he fill in at centre back for Liverpool? Yes. Dalot, we might have Ahmad right wing back. We might have Alphonso Davies left wing back. And Mazraoui and Euro could be the right centre back. Delicta Maguire could be the central centre back. Lichu could be the left centre back. And Dalot could be on the bench. But let's say there's an injury all of a sudden. Rather than having to throw Lindelof on at right wing back or right centre back, you could throw Dalot on there. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool, if there's an injury, they don't have to throw some crap there. Joe Gomez is there to cover. And I think, if Real Madrid come in with 50 million bid, you're not going to say no to it. But I feel like this fan base is really just turned on Dalot because he's not at the best. The first 5 games of the season, he was good, and then he just dropped off a cliff a little bit. But he's been playing out of position. He was our best player last season. When I'm talking about the players that Man United need to sell, good offer comes in for Dalot, we could raise a bit of money to invest further. Fair enough. But when I'm talking about players that Man United need, and I'm talking need to sell, Eriksen, he needs to go. He's going to go on a free anyway. Anthony needs to go. Not good enough. You look at your Lindelofs, they just got to go. Your Casemiro's, he's not going to be in the long-term project. He doesn't have the legs. Look at the age. Bausch. You don't put Dalot in the ones that he needs to sell. You put him in the ones that, you know what, if there's a 50 million offer there, United might consider it. But I think he's one of the few players this may, I'm not someone that, I think Mazraoui's better than Dalot, but I think Dalot's one of the few players in this Man United squad that's unproblematic. His crosses were shite. He completed 0 out of 9 crosses. It was atrocious in the last game. But I feel like we're really reactionary. A player has a couple bad games in a row, sell them. Sell them, sell them, sell them. Because you know what's mad? Is there were Liverpool fans, and it was a minority, but there were Liverpool fans back in March and April saying, sell Mo Salah. Mo Salah came back from AFCON, and there was a period in March and April when Liverpool dropped off, and Mo Salah wasn't doing that well. And there was Liverpool fans saying, cash on Mo Salah, sell him, his age, he's caught up to him. There was Liverpool fans back at the end of last season wanting Mo Salah sold because he had a 2-3 month period where he wasn't quite at his best. And I ain't comparing Dalot to Mo Salah. Dalot's nowhere near the levels of Mo Salah and a different position. But what I'm saying is, if a player is underperformed for maybe 2 months, but actually was our best player the season before, why don't we give them the full season before deciding after 2 months they're finished, they're gone, they're not good enough, sell them? Do you know what I mean? Because I think we're being reactionary. For me, if Real Madrid put a 50 million bid for Dalot, I'm not saying no. And Dalot doesn't start in my best Man United starting 11 if we brought in the 4 signings that I want. But he's not a bad player. He's played left wing back. He was awful. I'm not going to lie. He was the worst player our last game. He was poor. But he's not a left wing back. He's not going to play there long term. He's just there until we get a left wing back sorted. And I think, I agree with this. We can be critical. We can say he hasn't been good because he's not been good the last few games. But I've seen so many comments like, Dalot needs to be the first out the door. Dalot's the problem. How is Dalot the problem when you've got Anthony? When you've got other players? And also, can we... And this annoys me. But we always do this thing where there's always one player that's the problem. And I think when I was younger and a bit more naive. I fell for it, in maybe the early days, and then I kind of realised that whenever we get rid of the so-called problem player, there's a new problem player. But, we were always made to believe at Manchester United, okay, McFred are the problem. Right, we don't have McFred, we're still crap. Maguire and Lindelof are the problems. Well, Maguire and Lindelof don't really start anymore. We're still crap. Ronaldo's the problem. Well, we got rid of Ronaldo. We're still crap. De Gea's the problem. We got rid of De Gea. We're still crap. Even Pogba was the problem at one point, apparently. But at Man United, there's always been a point where we're underperforming. And I think we look, and this is my opinion, but I think sometimes we look for an easy answer, an easy fix. And when I was, 17, 18 and everything, and it was Ollie, and my perspective of how I viewed Man United and players and managers really changed when Ralph Rangnick came in. It really changed. Like, my perception of everything really changed, because I think under Ollie, I was thinking he keeps starting McFred are not good enough. We brought in Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane, we're still crap. Ollie must be the problem. But then when Ollie left and Rangnick comes in, and then there's a bit of rotation and other midfielders are playing and they're not performing, I said, you know what? Ollie might have not been the guy. And, McFred might not be Man United level. But actually, getting rid of Ollie and getting rid of McFred at the time, which a lot of us felt could have solved the problems, it didn't. Because that ended up happening. And it was so easy at the time to think that. Because, we finished second the year before. Ronaldo comes in, Sancho comes in, Varane comes in. And I think, it's so easy as a fan to get emotional, like, oh, we've lost this game under Amorim. Some fans, will say, oh, Dalot and Rashford are the problems. If Dalot and Rashford are sold, everything will be fixed. And it's like, well, Rashford didn't even play in the first half. And when he did come on, he created the most chances in the pitch in the 30 minutes he was on. And I'm not saying that Rashford's been good enough this season, but I'm just saying, if we're crap for 60 minutes, well, I thought we were quite good in the first half, but the second half we started really badly. Rashford wasn't on the pitch. We conceded 2 goals. Nothing was really happening in attack. Rashford comes on, only plays 25 minutes and creates the most chances. It's actually a bit like, well, actually, is fixing the squad going to be sorted by selling Rashford? Yes, Dalot messed up 9 crosses, but is fixing the squad really going to be sorted by selling Dalot? No. And I think as a fan base, it's really reactionary. It's every time we lose, it's sell Rashford, sell Dalot, sell this player, sell that player. And ultimately, we're going to have to sell a lot of players in the summer of 2025. There's a lot of players that are not good enough. There's a lot of players that need to go. But you just have to look at it in the perspective of like, okay, well, what does Amorim need? Could this player do a job under Amorim, for the next year, but maybe will need to be gone 2-3 years down the line? Okay, we won't put him as a priority to sell. Is this player suited to the Amorim ball? So you're going to look at Eriksen. Absolutely not suited to Amorim ball. You're going to look at probably Casemiro and say, really probably not suited to Amorim ball. You're going to look at, a Lindelof, not physically good enough, they'll be gone. So those kind of players will be gone instantly this summer. Next summer, you may look at Alejandro Garnacho and say, he's young, he's a good player, he's raw, but actually, he doesn't suit Amorim's front three and he's not a wing back. So then they might say, not this summer, but maybe next summer, when, we need players more suited to Amorim ball. But I think that's sort of the situation at United. I think we always feel that, we just sell this player, we get rid of that player, everything will be fixed. But I think we need to look at it and just say, who gets in our best starting 11 right now? Who, if we got our Dream 4 signings, gets in our best starting 11? And who, if there's an injury, will be good for depth? And then you might look at it, who's going to raise funds for FFP? You might look at it and say, who's going to raise funds for FFP? Who needs to be sold? You might say, will they be in Amorim's team 3 years down the line? There's only a few players at United that I think will be in Amorim's team 3 years down the line, and some of them on this list. I think Ahmed will be starting for Amorim 3 years down the line. I think Maino will be starting for Amorim 3 years down the line, who's been getting way too much criticism because he's just come back from injury and playing with injury, and I thought he was good in Nottingham Forest game. I think Mazraoui will be starting for Amorim 3 years down the line. I think Lenny Yoro could take Delict's place 3 years down the line, and I think Onana potentially. I don't think Onana's a problem. I think he's been one of our better players this season. But they may look to, when we're a bit more secure on field, they may look to change the keeper. So we'll look at Ahmad, we'll look at Maino, we'll look at Mazraoui, and we'll look at Lenny Yoro. And I'd say comfortably, those 4 players I can see, in 2027 starting for Man United. I don't know about you, but I could see them in 2027 starting for Man United. So they're the players that aren't going to go. Could you see Dalot starting for Man United in 2027? No. So INEOS might say, if the right bid comes in, we'll take it. But is Dalot a valuable squad asset? Yes. So they're not going to think about prioritising selling Dalot. Whereas Anthony Is he a valuable squad asset? No. So if a bid comes in for Anthony, get gone. I think that's approach, in my opinion. I know I've just gone on a rant, and I know I've just gone I've gone on and on and on and on and on, but I wanted to just get my point across. I wanted to get my point across because I do think as a fan base we're a little bit too reactionary. But I'm going to continue on with the other story because I have gone on for that a bit, and I just wanted to get the point across because I think there's been a lot of negativity because we've lost matches recently. But let's continue on. So why are some players already complaining? The majority of the Manchester United players are in favour of Ruben Amorim's rotation policy, despite murmurs of discontent from minority of the squad. Ruben Amorim has started 20 different players during his 5 matches in charge and made 25 out of 25 possible substitutions. There's only 2 or 3 players in the squad who have not taken a liking to Amorim's ways. So what we know is the only player that hasn't started under Amorim is Bayindir, Lindelof, and I believe Luke Shaw. But obviously 2 of them have been injured. Bayindir is Bayindir. Now, what we know right now is most of the players are liking Ruben Amorim. They like his communication. They like the way he connects with the squad. They like his rotation. They like that he's giving players a lot of minutes. I think people like that. But, I mean, this has come from one Samuel Lutkers. I'm going to put this here. Samuel Lutkers always likes to put something out negative-wise, and he always likes to go dressing room source. Samuel Lutkers is one of those that likes to go dressing room source and put out more things on the negative side of things. So I always do say when you've got a dressing room leak from Samuel Lutkers, you can definitely take it with a big pinch of salt. And do I think that this story is 100% true? No, it could be Lutkers trolling around. You know, I think out of all the journalists, if this has come from The Athletic, I think I 100% believe this story. If Laurie Whitwell had wrote this, I'm 100% believing it. I'm 100% thinking it's true. But I do think certain journalists, and Samuel Lutkers is one of them, whenever there's a bit of a controversial story that will be like dressing room sources or dressing room leaks, it does come from him. And I will put that, and I will make that clear when I read this story. Now, I do think there could be 1 or 2 players in the Man United squad that aren't happy with Amorim, because from what I've heard, Christian Eriksen was playing quite regularly under Erik ten Hag, was one of our better players. Amorim came in, he started Amorim's first game. Amorim wasn't impressed because of his lack of athleticism. The next game, Christian Eriksen wasn't injured, but Amorim texted him a couple hours before the match by phone, by the way, you're not in the squad. And he's not had, him in the squad or involved since, despite him being fit. So I know that Christian Eriksen won't be happy. We also know that Bayindir isn't happy at United and is pushing for a January move. So those 2 players that maybe have a slight issue with Amorim, it could be Eriksen, it could be Bayindir. They could be the 2 players, but they're probably, it's not like it's really going to affect the squad or affect squad morale. They just want to play more. They'll be gone in 2025 anyway. Bash. I think the majority of the players at United are buying into Amorim's ways. They like Amorim's ways. And I think that Lutkers probably writes these kind of stories to put a bit of a negative spin. And, they're already turning, are they? They're already turning, are they? That's what he does as well. But yeah, I think with Lutkers, you have to be a little bit careful as well. Big up everybody in the chat as well. Big up on joining 99k club. Congratulations. Yeah, thanks everyone for the support on the channel. We are on 99,094 subscribers. So only 6 away from 99.1k. We're so close to that goal by the end of the year. Absolutely mad as well. And I said, I really don't care who complains. Get rid of them if they don't like it. And I completely agree with this comment. At the end of the day, if anybody complains, get rid of them. They don't like it as well. The rebuild will be going on for decades. There's no recovering from this. I think with the right recruitment and right structure, there is. And that's up to INEOS to prove that they're different to the Glazers and implement that as well. Someone said, who would you sell right now? There's a lot of players I want to sell, but if we're talking right now, we have to be realistic with who we can actually sign in January. So for me, I would probably say Eriksen, because we're going to lose him for free and we can get a couple mil. Anthony, if we can get any money, and just get him off the wage bid as well. They would be my 2 to sell. I think Lindelof, if you can, is going to go on a free. Get rid. And I think if the right offer came in for Casemiro, I would, because he's not really played much under Amorim. He's not played at all. I think we could do with him for depth, and I think him and Agate were good under Ruud van Nistelrooy. But if someone came in for 30 million for him, he's on 350 grand a week, which is 20 million a year in wages. That's 50 million saved. But I don't think we can there's going to be a top striker or a top centre-back we can go out and get in January. I don't even know about left wing-back, but let's say you sold Casemiro, you sold Anthony, and you sold Eriksen in January. And there's already 40 million to spend, but now you've freed up another 50-odd million. We could go out there, drop 35 million, I'm going to say, on Kirkes, potentially, strengthen the left flank. Then we'd have to be playing Delo at left wing-back. We then might go out there and look at a midfielder in January. There might be Belieber of Brighton. We might look more at the Bundesliga. There's a lot of good players. Christopher Vivel is a very clever guy. We might look at a Maxim Kakare. I don't know. We could look at... I think we've got a gentleman's agreement not to go from anyone from Sporting. But I think if I was to pick, I'd say an athletic midfielder, because I think if Agati gets injured, that will put Amorim in trouble because he's the only player of his kind off the ball. And I think that's something we lack. And I would say a left wing back. Left wing back and athletic midfielder is 100% what I do in January. I like Casemiro. I think he worked quite well with Agate, but I don't think he will suit what Amorim wants. And then in the summer, I would axe 7-8 more players. There's about 7-8 players I would get rid of in the summer, but I don't know if we're in a position to get rid of them in January. Because people put in here, axe Rashford, axe Rashford, axe Rashford. At the end of the day, the only player for me that I can think of at the top of my head that is like a real proper replacement for Rashford is Kvaratskhelia. Do you think we're going to get Kvaratskhelia in January? Probably not. And if we do, it's going to be 100 million plus. Do you think we're in a position to spend 100 million plus in January? No. So people will be like, axe Rashford, axe Mount, axe Garnacho, But how can you replace them in January? I'm just talking about in January right now, I think it's left wing back and midfielder that we can sign. In the summer, Gyökeres becomes available, Cunha becomes available, potentially a Kvaratskhelia or Nico Williams comes available, but who says they're going to go to United? Someone just said Lookman could be available. There's some good players there. But, in January, the market's slim. Like, if we're talking Dream World, I'll be saying this. If we're talking Dream World, I'd be signing Bruno Guimaraes for the midfield. Do you think Newcastle are going to sell him to us? Absolutely not. We're talking Dream World, I'll be signing Kvaratskhelia. Do you think he's going to want to come to United right now? Or do you think Napoli's going to sell him for a reasonable price? No. A lot of people say go for Leao. I'm going to say to this student now, okay? Everything that everybody complains about of Rashford is what Rafael Leao does. In terms of people complain about Rafael Leao for work rate, body language, and having purple patches, sometimes being good, sometimes being poor. What I'm saying is, and I think Rafael Leao is a good player. I think he's a good player. But Kvaratskhelia for me is a level above. And I think every problem that our fan base has with Rashford is what some AC Milan fans get frustrated with Leao about. And I think people got to remember that as well. So that's why I also, Rashford also has better numbers than him. And people complain that Leao is, a good dribbler and gets goals and assists, but doesn't do this or doesn't do that. So that's what I think with Leao. I think he's a good player, but I actually think that people would, if he unstarted and performing, I think people would take a problem with him. Now, talking to Marcus Rashford, Barcelona are interested in signing Marcus Rashford what's that say? Barcelona interested in signing Marcus Rashford. Doesn't surprise me. They've got Rafinha, they've got Lamine Yamal. Marcus Rashford suits Barcelona ball in terms of the directness, in terms of the approach. Wouldn't totally surprise me. Again, PSG, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, there will be interest in Rashford. Doesn't go anywhere in January. That's a given. When Ruben Amorim wants to see him, he is Man United's only attacker that's proven that he can score goals. And, he's scored in every start he's had under Ruben Amorim. So that's something for you as well. And I think if we use him in the left forward role, like we did in Everton, I think he was the right forward. I think there's a good player in Rashford. I mean, people disagree with me, but I think he's frustrating, and I think if he is really poor between now and the end of the season, you have to look at selling him, because that's 2 poor seasons in a row, of course. But for me, I wouldn't sell Marcus Rashford, and a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I wouldn't. He's not, for me, a problem right now. I think he is the scapegoat of this club, and I think that he could do better, and I think with the wages he's on, he could do better, but I think he's a good player. I generally believe that if Marcus Rashford can get whatever it is out of his head and Man United can start playing good football again, he'll be good. And people disagree with me on that. And everybody, I know a lot of you disagree with my Rashford take, and that's absolutely fine. You can have your own take. But I generally believe that if there was a stable environment created with good attacking systems and Man United were attacking well and Rashford was getting the ball in that sort of left forward role and he sort of got out of this mental block, I think Rashford would start firing again. I think Rashford would start being good again. And I think we'd be like, wow. Like, I generally believe that Amorim can unlock the Rashford that we saw in Ten Hag's first season, the Rashford we saw under Ollie. Generally believe that, you know. And if Amorim doesn't unlock him, I generally think if he went to Bayern, he'd be smashing it. I really do. I don't think there's a bad player there. I think he's a victim of the poor environment at United. But we're not here to talk about Marcus Rashford all day. We're going to talk about a few other stories like Diego Leon. Patrick Lynch says, why is it not surprising that Luckhurst, who's spouting about discontent in the dressing room, double quick tie this time around? Yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, when I was reporting on it, dressing room leaks and it comes from Luckhurst. Are we shocked about it? No. And I think when dressing room leaks come from Samuel Luckhurst, you have to say, take it with a pinch of salt. If, you know, you get a good, credible journalist like Laurie Whitwell come out of a dressing room leak, it's quite informing. But when Samuel Luckhurst comes out of a dressing room leak, or Neil Custis of The Sun comes out with a dressing room leak about, I think, you know, you're like, there was a dressing room leak about, you know, the team not wanting to pass to Højlund because they don't rate Højlund a year ago. I think that was Luckhurst or Neil Custis of The Sun. It was absolute BS. And we obviously said that when we reported on it, but there's certain journalists that I think like to spin a negative narrative around Manchester United. So when they start putting out leaks, I am always a little bit on the sceptical side. But let's dive into this. There is huge optimism that a deal for Diego Leon to join Manchester United can be done, and he will join in June once he turns 18. The fee will be roughly 4.7 million, said Roberto Rejas from via MUFC MPP. Now, MUFC MPP on Twitter seems to be the account that's getting all the information, so definitely go follow their account and check it out. They were the first account to tweet the Diego Leon stuff, get information from South America and stuff, and every update on Diego Leon to United, I think MUFC MPB is the account to follow. I think they're getting really good information from that. So that's what they said. Academy Scoop said this: Manchester United are pushing to sign Diego Leon. Scouts have identified him as a strong fit for Ruben Amorim's left wing-back role, as well as ticking several boxes in regards to his physical profile in accordance with a conscious internal effort to raise the squad's athletic levels. United face competition from a host of European clubs, but are optimistic an agreement can be found. So you've now got Academy Scoop, again saying United think that they can get this deal done. There is competition. They want him because he's going to boost the squad, physical profile, a bit like Sekou Kone, a bit like Obi Martin as well. So positive news there. It was then said that Diego Leon is very close to joining United. The club are close to agreeing the terms of the transfer. And then The Athletic said that Manchester United have entered talks to sign Diego Leon. He's viewed as a highly rated young prospect by United. If signed Leon, he would likely be one for the future, not a first team option. I saw a few people getting salty on Twitter. Why are we signing a 17-year-old? We need a left wing back now. Signing Diego Leon is not going to stop us signing a left wing back in summer. Man United aren't going to go 4 million left back, 17-year-old Diego Leon, Amorim, there you go, that's your left back. No, Man United are still going to go out and sign Kirkes or Alphonso Davies or Dorgu in summer. This is just someone that they want to get in. You know, we've signed Sekou Kone and Agate. It wasn't like, we're going to get Sekou Kone because we can't get Agate. No. As well. So, and as MUFCB said, more news on Diego Leon's move to Man United expected later today. Definitely go check them out on Twitter for updates on that. And then last but not least, we're talking about the travelling squad ahead of the game to face Victoria Pleasant, which is 5:45 kickoff as well. 5:45 kickoff. I thought it was an 8 o'clock kickoff, so it's going to be earlier as well. Someone said. I'll sort that out later. Sorry. But yeah, so this is the squad: Bayindir, Heaton, Anana, Dalot, De Ligt, Lindelof, Maguire, Malacia, Martinez, Mazraoui, Lenny, Euro. No Johnny Evans. Lindelof is back in. Pretty fully fit squad. No Luke Shaw, no Johnny Evans. Midfield: Casemiro, Toby Collier now back in. Ericsson, Bruno, Maino, Mount, Agate. So again, full midfield options. And then attack: Ahmed, Anthony, Garnacho, Højlund, Rashford, Xerxes. So pretty much a full squad there as well for the next game. And then there was obviously this report that the Man United women's team has been left deflated by Dan Ashworth. Shock exit. Ashworth considered the developments of the women's team to be an important part of the big rebuilding plan. We talked about that on my live stream earlier today. I understand that economically the men's team is more important than the women's team. The men's team is always going to be a priority, and that's fair. But I think the club has got to still treat the women's team well. You can prioritise the men's team and not neglect the women's team. The men's team is economic priority. The men's team brings in 99% of Manchester United's revenue. But, you know, I've always said this. There's one thing called focusing on the men's team, but you also don't neglect the women's team. Arsenal focus on the men's team, but their women's team is run well. Chelsea focus on the men's team, but their women's team is run well. City focus on the men's team, but the women's team is run well. Man United are completely neglecting the women's team, not running it well. You can focus on the men's team, but just make sure the right structure is in place where you don't completely neglect and run down the women's team, because that's what Ashworth wanted to do. And there's a lot of people not happy on the women's side of Manchester United. There's a lot of staff not happy. And, you know, a lot of people haven't taken to Ratcliffe's comments about the women's team well, which is fair enough. I think there's, you know, prioritising the men's and just saying, you know, the men's is going to be the focus because it's going to bring in the more money and that's what we're focusing on. Absolutely fine. But that's not an excuse to then just completely neglect the women's side and the other side of the team. That's things they've got to focus on as well. There is a report from Mike Keegan on Sheikh Yassim's plans to Manchester United and him wanting full ownership. Now, I spoke to somebody and they said that Sheikh Yassim was never truly ever going to buy United and he used this for PR. And they were quite a credible person. So I don't know if this is coming out because a lot of people are upset with Ratcliffe. And that's why there's a big report coming out what Sheikh Yassim's going to do with United. I'm going to cover it in the morning. But obviously, if you knew me, I wanted the full sale. If you knew me, I wanted whatever Qatar was selling us to be real. And I wanted the Glazers out. That's what I wanted. I wanted the Glazers out. I wanted the full sale. I wanted whatever Qatar was selling us to be completely real. But ultimately, they did not pay up. The Glazers' asking price was unreasonable. But we got Ratcliffe in. We got INEOS in. The plan is to eventually buy out the Glazers, and hopefully that happens. And while I've not been fully impressed with things at the moment, hopefully it picks up and hopefully it gets better as well. But it's all interesting. But listen, people, let's hit the like button if you haven't already and you're enjoying the video. Please do subscribe down below if you're new, because I'm on 99,000, then 98 subscribers. I'm only 2 subscribers away from 99.1k. I will be back tonight if any breaking news comes out, but I'll see you next time. Bye.